Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I'm glad you all could join me at this time. My name is Shavi Zane, and I'm coming on to have a discussion with you all in regards to narcissists. Why you tend to attract narcissists. We're going to go into some of the inner child wounds that might have affected you to cause you to attract these types of people. We're going to talk about some of your relationship patterns, any codependencies that you might be struggling with, any insecurities, and how to heal and advice. Okay. So I'm going to be pulling from several different decks to get into this message so that I can personalize it, um, energetically for those of you who are joining. Um, so, what is a narcissist? Okay, at this point, many of you have already attracted narcissists. You already know what one is because you are guided to come to this particular discussion with me at this time. And so, a narcissist is someone who pretty much thinks that the world revolves around them. Okay, they have this sense of entitlement where they require constant attention and expects excessive amount of recognition and admiration, um, even without achievements. Okay, so they feel like they should be placed in this superior, um, like this sense of entitlement. Okay, they want to be placed on a pedestal even without giving of themselves. Okay, they just assume that they deserve this just because they are who they are. Okay, whatever that means. So I want to get into some of the inner child wounds that might have caused you to attract narcissists. Because one thing that I do know is that many of the chosen seeds have a tendency to attract narcissists. And one of the reasons behind that is because the chosen tend to have a very nurturing and healing spirit, okay? Naturally, we have a desire to want to heal other people. And so we tend to overlook a lot of red flags that we see from the very beginning, especially if we ourselves are not fully healed. And we tend to have this connection with people where we just want to see them do better, and we know that we possess the ability to help them, but sometimes we tend to overextend ourselves in spite of the lack of reciprocity in the relationship. Okay, and so it's important even for the chosen to understand that a part of the healing process for us is to recognize when healthy boundaries need to be established, when it's okay to help someone, and when it's okay to set boundaries that says no, this is not the time. Okay, or maybe you're not the person that is being sent because it's not time for them to actually receive what it is that you have to give in terms of healing, wisdom, encouragement, whatever the case may be, because some people are just not ready to heal. Some people are just resistant to that. And so it's important to have that energy of discernment where you're able to see clearly, is this a situation that I should be inserting myself into? Should I be connecting myself with this person? Is it draining me? Is it causing me to feel low vibrational in my energy? Is it um is there a lot of triggers when it comes to me and my connection to this person? Do they remind me of someone that I had to walk away from in the past? Okay, so uh, let's just get right into it, okay? Because there's so much that can be said here. Um, so, inner child wounds. Let's talk about it because I do plan on doing another message in regards specifically on inner child wounds. You all let me know in the comments below if that's something that you're interested in. But let's just talk a little bit about inner child wounds and how this has caused you to attract narcissists, because generally it starts from childhood. Some people tend to think that a narcissist is someone, especially females, they might think that it's only men that can be narcissists, but it can be anybody. It can be your spouse, it can be your mama, your daddy, your child, your grandmother, your coworker, your boss. You yourself can be the narcissist. It can be anyone. And so you want to recognize that it's not just, a lover who's, overly controlling and things of that nature. The narcissists come in many forms. Okay, there's no discrimination in terms of that. So let's see, in terms of your inner child, what has caused you to attract narcissists? Okay, so the lovers is in the reverse and the hermit is here. So this would indicate that in childhood, you may not have seen the healthiest relationships, because this can indicate toxic relationships, broken relationships, and you might have felt left out, abandoned, lonely a lot of times, okay? And so you might have also seen that in relationships, if you saw your parents together, or some sort of relationship that you might have witnessed growing up, you might have noticed that neither person really felt as if they were emotionally available to one another. You might have seen that they still felt lonely in spite of the connection. And this is something growing up that made you feel isolated as well, because you're growing up with people. This is not everybody's case, but take it how it resonates, okay? You might have grown up around people who, in spite of their connection, still felt like they had no one. And so in that energy, they was not able to offer you a lot of love, okay? Because they themselves were functioning in a way where they were not attracting people that actually brought in the emotional fulfillment that they desired, okay? And so let's see, how else has your inner child wounds affected you in terms of attracting narcissism to your life? Okay. So you might have had people in your life that was very traditional in their belief systems, okay? And it may have been one of those situations where they might have used that as a way of controlling the narrative of how things was ran, within the household. But there was something that was contradictory in regards to that, because it's like you might have been brought up in a church environment or a religious environment, but when you got back home, you might have gone, let's say you went to church on a Sunday, everything, you received the teachings or whatever, and you saw that maybe even at that time your parents or your step parents, whoever it is, were cohesive, and in front of other people they had this traditional way of thinking, of doing, of being, and they seemed to have it all together. But then when you got back home, you noticed the division. You noticed that there was no cohesiveness, there was no love between these people, that it was all fake. And you often felt just left out. You often felt like kind of abandoned to a large degree. I feel like this caused you to attract narcissists, because narcissists, they tend to desire to have all of the attention, right? They tend to want you to give them praise in spite of whether or not they deserve it. And so for you, watching people in inauthentic relationships receive praise from those outside of the home made you question. It was like a contradictory to what you were seeing versus what was being displayed amongst other people outside of your household. You might have even grown up around somebody that was in a position of authority, or some sort of maybe a religious leader, and you felt that they were inconsistent in terms of their genuine nature. It was something about them that was false, that was fake, okay? And I feel like you was also the type of person, even from childhood, that you was always able to see past the veil, okay? It was something that you was able to recognize from childhood, that things just wasn't balanced. And maybe you was always trying to search for answers, trying to dissect, well, why is it this way? Why does it seem like, when we're at home, things are in disarray, it's no happiness, no fulfillment, it's toxicity. But when we're out in public, suddenly everything is traditional. Suddenly everything is upright. And, I feel like it was this energy of seeking the truth, okay? You always sought the truth. You have the world here. So this would indicate that a lot of cycles ended up coming to an end in your life. Like you found yourself, maybe you watched, if you had the type of parents where they might have had long-term relationships and then it will be over, and then here comes another relationship and then it will be over. There was something about that inconsistency. Or even if you had, the same parents in your household, but it was inconsistent in terms of their love for one another. It was probably more toxic than it was cohesive emotional availability. Okay. And so I feel like this might have made you want to heal situations because at that time you felt helpless. Like there wasn't a lot that you could really do to shift the energy. And you also felt abandoned and left out, okay, because of it. You always felt as if you was isolated, okay, because of it. And so how this would affect you moving into adulthood is that, you would attract people that would be very similar to what you saw growing up, especially if you have yet to heal, or even prior to healing, then you would have attracted people who were a direct reminder of what you went through growing up, because you might have suppressed it. Okay, you might have suppressed what you went through, so much so that it's like in your subconscious. Okay, all of those things that you saw growing up in terms of toxic relationships, you put it in the back of your mind as a way of just wanting to forget about it. But you attracted those type of people to you as a way of bringing it back up to the surface so that you could acknowledge it. And the goal was to heal from it through your acknowledgement. But oftentimes we end up getting swept up in a karmic wheel, in a karmic cycle of the same type of situations over and over again, because some part of you was conditioned to believe that this was the norm when it came to relationships. Even if you have parents who was together for 60 years or more, you might have seen a very unhealthy connection where your mother or your father might have continued to stay in a very unhealthy connection in spite of their partner's infidelity, disrespect, toxic behavior, addictions, codependencies. They stayed because they themselves was codependent on something, whether it was financial stability, whether if they was codependent on love, whether they was codependent on an actual substance. When you have a codependency yourself, you will attract to you people who have codependencies. And so you watched people growing up. You might have had a parent who was in this narcissistic behavior, who placed themselves on a pedestal, who thought that they were superior, okay? Because that's the definition of a narcissist. Someone who sees themselves as being superior, someone who requires lots of attention and recognition, whether or not they deserve it. Okay, so you might have had someone who maybe they had a lot of wisdom, maybe they possessed a lot of wisdom, and so to the world, to the public, people respected them. But you yourself saw a whole nother side to them as a child growing up, all the way up into your adult years. You knew what was behind the surface. You knew what was behind the representative. And so there was some contradictions there. So some part of you, because you was placed in a shadow, some part of you wanted to gain some clarity about what this meant. And another part of you wanted to be able to heal others. Or you would attract these type of people because it was necessary for it to come to the surface so that you could heal. Okay, let me see what else in terms of inner child wounds. So you have the Sun here, and at the bottom you have the Two of Pentacles. So I feel like you wanted to be noticed. You wanted to be recognized as a child, but because you was always left in the shadows, because you was always isolated, you never got the attention that you desired. Okay, With the sun coming out, you might have always been the type of child that was free spirited. You know, you had a beautiful energy about yourself, very open, but it's almost this energy of you still was not received well. Okay, you still felt as if maybe your parents had too much to juggle. They had too many responsibilities, and they just kind of dropped the ball in terms of being able to give you the attention and the recognition that you desired as a child. Okay. Let me pull one more from here, and I'm going to see what your relationship patterns have looked like. Okay. So what you have here is the Ace of Wands coming out in the reverse. The Ace of Wands in the reverse deals with having that spark, that passion, that excitement, but then it dying out fast. And so it's like, yeah, I feel like you tried to liven up things around your home. If you had people around you, you know, when things got rough, when things got, you know, rocky in between, you know, between your parents, or if you grew up in a single parent home and your mother was always juggling, having a lot of responsibility, you tried to liven things up. You tried to, you know, this is a healing energy. The sun is a healing energy, okay? And so you tried to do that, but you would be met with the Ace of Wands in reverse, which is that energy of lack of passion, lack of excitement, because you was around people that lacked a zeal for life, okay? Not saying that both of your parents was in that energy, but there was someone around you that would kind of zap the excitement right up out of you and put you back in that energy of isolation, because they themselves lack zeal and happiness. And so for them, it was easier to keep you in the shadows and kind of stay in that low vibrational energy, the unhappiness. It was easier for them to stay in that than to be reciprocal of your light. Okay. And I think a large part of it too is that your parents, you know, one or both might have even recognized that you had a gift of being able to see past the veil. It's like it was something about you. You know, some of you might be Virgos, but it was something about you where you always knew the truth in spite of what was being shown to you, in spite of the contradictions that was being shown to you in the relationships that you eyewitnessed. You always was able to cut through to the truth because you was always searching for it. And so I do feel that maybe that might have even been intimidating for your parents, okay? So let me see. In terms of your relationship patterns, how has you attracting narcissists to you affected or influenced your relationships? Because again, you're going to attract to you, this relationships can deal with friendships, business partners, romantic relationships, okay? You attract to people that are going to help bring up those things that you have suppressed, so that you can acknowledge them and heal from them. And if you have to go through the cycle multiple times, then that's just what you end up having to do until you're able to release yourself from that type of energy. And so let's see. How has your relationship patterns influenced you attracting narcissists? Okay. So what I'm seeing here is with the Queen of Wands and the Ten of Pentacles, you are very attractive, okay? You tend to attract a lot of people. People see you in your light, okay? They see you as being very creative in your nature, confident, strong. But behind that is a Ten of Pentacles in the reverse, which is a broken family. Or it is a household that was never solid. It was never stable. And I'm also hearing that this is generational in terms of attracting narcissistic people. This is a generational thing, okay? That's a large part of the generational curses as well. There's many layers to that. And so it's something about You might have attracted people to you that was more drawn to you based on your physical attributes, their physical attractiveness to you, and the passion that they felt, that spark. But you was attracting also at the same time people that were non-committal, people that were afraid of commitment because they themselves came from families who might have been in broken homes or had some sort of imbalance here. And even in terms of friendships, you attracted people to you because you might have been a person that was very outgoing, um, very easy to get along with, okay? Very easy going in your energy. But people was just, I feel like people was just very attracted to you in general. It was something about your light, okay? And your natural ability to be very creative in your energy, a go-getter, very passionate about those things that you do. So people were attracted to you in that way, but there was no longevity in terms of these connections. And if it was, there was still something that was very unstable and unbalanced about it, okay? So I feel like this has affected you in a way where, yeah, you always found yourself having to close out cycles with these people. Always having to close out cycles with these people because there was no real stability in these relationships. Let's see. Yeah. So you have this Eight of Cups. So that's walking away from the past, okay? Moving towards a new beginning. Always having to start all over again, moving towards something that would allow you to have that spark, that passion, that excitement again. Because from your childhood, you always wanted that, right? Because this came out in the reverse. Oh, it's two cards here. What is this? Oh, so you always wanted this spark and this excitement. And so it's like you've always been on a search to feel this type of energy, this type of zeal, this passion for life, and to have that reciprocal energy, to have people to acknowledge you, and to have an appreciation for the gifts and the talents that you possessed. You attracted people to you that you wanted to be able to see and to acknowledge those things that were not acknowledged by your parents, okay? And so you was always on a search, always searching for something else that will bring about that spark and that passion. And so you might have had long-term friendships, but ultimately you would end up closing out the cycle with many of these people and moving on because you might have, drawn out, or that narcissistic tendency within these people would come forward. And over time, it would become a very unhealthy relationship. And so you would walk away in search of your happiness all over again, in search of that new thrill, that new passion, because you wanted to keep that fire lit, okay? Some of you might be fire signs, Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius. So you wanted to keep that fire lit and that flame going because you felt isolated so much in your childhood that you never wanted to go back into that energy of feeling like you was not enough. And so you always was in search of someone who would make you feel as if you were enough, or someone who would validate or acknowledge what you had to offer, okay? So then the King of Swords comes out here. And this shows me that you have had a tendency to attract to people who are emotionally guarded, people who are emotionally unavailable. They might be able to communicate, intellectual communication with you, but very cold in their energy. Why? Because your parents, one or both of your parents, was very cold in their energy, because it was a pattern for them to attract relationships or to stay in a relationship where there was no emotional availability. There was no warmth. There was no cohesiveness. There was no balance there in terms of the emotions. And so you attracted people to you who was very cold, very militant, dominant in their energy, okay? This is that narcissistic characteristic where people might have even, I feel like in relationships, people try to use their sexual energy as a way of keeping you in the relationships, even if it was a unhealthy relationship, or even if you had found yourself with someone who was non-committal, someone who was fearful of commitment because of whatever they've been through. You may have found yourself attracting people to you that was more about the passion, more about the sex, and using that to their advantage against you, because they, even if they didn't understand what they was doing on the surface, subconsciously there was this energy of knowing that you always craved and desired to have that type of attention, that type of passion, that type of affection. And so they used the sexual energy as a way of reigniting that spark, which you've always been in search of since a child, to create this illusion that what they was presenting to you was actually love, when in fact it was not. It was really just sex, okay? Because many of these people had no intentions on staying for the long haul. And so you yourself, on the other end of that, you yourself could have been the type of person who was non-committal, fearful of commitment because of what you saw growing up. But you always felt that as long as you kept the passion there, as long as you was sexually and stimulating this person and keeping them excited through that sexual energy, that somehow that would be enough to sustain a relationship. And it might have even caused you to become the type of person that was very cold in your energy, non-affectionate, avoiding having to be vulnerable or transparent. And so you might have found yourself in a pattern of going from one relationship to the next, seeking that new thrill, seeking that next wish fulfillment, because over time, after a while, this spark, it goes out. You see what I'm saying? You have to have more substance behind the sex. You have to have more substance behind the physical connection. And so over time, it would no longer be enough of a thrill. It would no longer be enough excitement for you to keep you going. And it would make you start to feel like you was getting ready to go right back into the shadows again, reminding you of your childhood, reminding you of that isolation that you felt watching your parents struggle with relationships and feeling isolated within their own relationships, and also isolating you as a direct result of what they was going through personally. And so it's like you recreated that energy over and over again in your relationships. I'm talking about your romantic relationships. But then in terms of your friendships, you might have found that you just couldn't make the connection, okay? You just couldn't make a true cohesive connection that went beyond excitement or intellectual communication. When it came to matters of the heart, you might have avoided that part all the way across the board. And you might have also feared or had this subconscious fear of never really having a friend in your life that was stable, that would be that long-term, lifelong friend that you would not have to ultimately walk away from, or that would ultimately walk away from you. Okay, so I feel like this has been a pattern here of seeking the thrill, the fire burning out, non-committal energy, attracting to you people that was very militant in their approach, no emotional availability, and then ultimately having to close out the cycle to go and search for your happiness and your excitement all over again. Yeah, in search of something new all over again, okay? Because the aces deal with a new beginning. So having to start all over again. Even if you had long-term friendships or long-term relationships, you still ultimately found yourself having to start all over again. And so then you ask yourself, well, why? Why am I not able to attract to me a relationship that's going to be lifelong, where we're partners that last for a lifetime and the spark doesn't die out? Well, it's because a large part of you was, instead of acknowledging the pain, instead of allowing yourself to address the root of the issue, you would just go seeking the next thrill, okay? The next exciting friendship, relationship, whatever the case may be, you will find yourself going to seek that rather than taking the time out to really look at what was behind all of this. What was causing this pattern? And so, let's see. Let me pull from this deck in terms of your relationships, and what caused you to attract these narcissistic people in terms of your relationships, okay? Because I feel like let's see. You have workaholic, okay? You might have even found yourself drowning in your work in order to avoid having to deal with the lack of balanced connections, okay? This could have even been an issue in terms of growing up. You might have found that your parents were workaholics, and they might have been doing it. They might have been throwing themselves into their work as a way of avoiding the fact that their relationship was off balance and that their relationship was toxic, okay? And so work was a way of, ignoring the situation. And so if they was working a lot, then naturally that will be another reason why you felt isolated or unnoticed, because by the time you get done working a 10, 12-hour shift and you're doing this almost every single day, or however many hours they might have worked, by the time they come home, they're all about business. They're all about getting, straightening things out, making sure that you eat and, cleaning you up and putting you to bed. And so you found yourself as a child always trying to brighten things up, always trying to bring life back into your home, but it wasn't received, okay? So you might, in your adult life, you might find yourself working a lot, becoming a workaholic in order to avoid the pain of having to take so many losses concerning your friendships, business partnerships, relationships, family relationships, difficulty communicating. This is dealing with the throat chakra. And so, yes, I feel like while, okay. Right at the bottom, we have mother and father issues. Okay, root chakra. So while many of you are very intellectual, okay, with the King of Swords coming out, I feel like you're able to have a lot of intellectual communication with people. It was something about you not being able to communicate your emotions, though. That part, I feel you shut down. And so you found yourself communicating through your sexual energy. That might have become your love language by accident, okay? Only because it allowed you to avoid the emotional part of relationships. And so difficulty communicating, your throat chakra got blocked because you felt like you was unheard as a child, being placed in the shadows and being isolated and never being able to receive the attention that you desire will cause you to have a blocked throat chakra. And if you take that into adulthood, then you end up in relationships with people who they may have a wide open throat chakra. They may be very, very good at communicating what they want, but they do it in a very militant fashion. They do it in a way where it's cold, it's cutthroat. And you, with your blocked throat chakra, find yourself just walking on eggshells because you don't want to set this person off, or you try to avoid confrontation at all costs. But you was never able to speak your truth. There's something about you not being able to speak your truth. And so you attracted people to you that were in that narcissistic energy, that used that against you. They used that to their advantage and to your disadvantage because they felt like, well, I have an upper hand when it comes to communication because this person is afraid to tell me how they feel. They're afraid to even ask me how I feel because they know that I'm going to use this sword to block them and I'm going to cut them off, or I'm going to make them feel I'm going to make them feel like their emotions are irrelevant, like their emotions are too soft, or like they're being too vulnerable, or too whatever the case may be. They tried to use that against you, okay? And so this was a direct trigger for you because of your childhood of not being heard. And so this is the type of people that you would end up attracting to you. And so your mother and father issues would come back to the surface, okay? So the root here, this is something that is embedded, is deeply embedded, okay? It's buried. The root chakra, I'm looking at this as being something that was buried. You buried those issues that you saw growing up between your mother and your father. But it still caused you to attract people to you that would even further block your throat chakra and make you feel as if your emotions were it's like gaslighting. If you've heard of the term gaslighting, making you feel as if what you think or what you feel is all an illusion, and projecting their own emotions off onto you rather than accepting it for what it is. Even if it's true, they still try to make it seem as if it's false. They try to make it seem as if your emotions are irrelevant. And the more often a person does that, the more you tended to go into the shadows. And so you used your sexual energy or your ability to be passionate, or maybe even your ability to give financially. You might have even used that as a workaholic. With the Ace of Pentacles here, you might have even found yourself being a type of person where it's like, well, I can't open up emotionally because I feel too vulnerable in that, because I'm attracting to me people who are narcissists, and they will take that and use it to their advantage, and and to harm me even further. So I'm going to only present myself in a way where I'm able to provide financially. I'm able to bring excitement and pleasure to them in the bedroom. But outside of that, as far as the emotional stuff, I'm completely shutting that off, okay? Because the only cups card that I see, cups deals with emotions. The only cups card that I see coming out in terms of your relationships is the 8 of cups, which is walking away. So I feel like you became very good at that. Walking away and leaving people behind, or you almost even anticipated that that would be the ultimate outcome of your relationships, is people walking away from you. And so you have here your sacral chakra. So this would be, because I'm not even really concerned about the messages here, but these are talking about like different symptoms of your solar plexus and your sacral. But I'm just talking about it for the sake of understanding what affected you. So your sacral chakra deals with your genital region. That's where it's located. It deals with your security. It deals with feeling whether you're insecure, or whether you're secure with yourself. Whether your creative energy is open, or whether your creative energy is blocked. And so I feel like with the sacral chakra coming out, you definitely found your confidence in your sexual energy. Solar plexus deals with your confidence, your courage, your personal power. You found confidence in presenting yourself through your sexual energy. Okay, that's why the Queen of Wands is here. And so this kept you in a space of a false sense of security within your relationships, because you knew that that passion and that excitement was something that, it would draw a lot of people in. It would attract people to you. But unfortunately, it was not enough to keep relationships going for the long term. Nor was it enough to attract to you the type of people that would stay for the long term. Okay, these are people that was attracted to that spark, that initial spark, that will ultimately walk away. You have anger and aggression. So yes, you was attracting to you people who was aggressive in their energy, angry, but I feel like, again, this goes back to the root. You might have watched your parents be in a very aggressive energy, where they might have handled their situations from a space of anger and aggression versus, handling it from a space of peace and balance. But that's largely because nothing about the relationship was balanced. Okay, nothing about the relationship was cohesive enough to where they could handle any situations that arose in the household from a space of love, because they themselves had shut down love and was overly focused on work, was overly focused on materialism, was overly focused on having these traditions, or having this image for the world that made it look as if they were religious, or they were upright to the world, but behind closed doors, they could not maintain that. And so they were very angry and aggressive because, naturally, when you hide who you are from the world and you put up this representative, then you have a lot of pent up energy that's going to be suppressed that you're going to need to release. And so naturally, you end up releasing it on the people that's closest to you. And so I feel like you grew up in a household where you saw your parents release that energy on one another. And if it wasn't both of your parents, then it could have been a step parent or just multiple relationships that one or both of your parents might have gone through, where you just saw an unhealthy, toxic connection. And so this is the pattern that you ended up attracting to yourself. You have here bullied or inferiority complex. And so this is also an issue because maybe in school, when you found yourself going to school, you found yourself being bullied or being placed in this position of feeling inferior. Even if you wasn't targeted or bullied, you might have just felt inferior because you was always shut down whenever you tried to become light, whenever you tried to be carefree as a child or open or emotionally, open. You always got shut down by the people that was closest to you. And so naturally, you might have become somewhat of an introvert around your classmates, around the people that you were, around the people that you was in school with, okay? And so other people, other children with insecurities might have seen that. They might have seen that insecurity that you had within you, or that energy of inferiority, because you can kind of see it. Kids are able to see things much more clearly than even adults sometimes, okay? Because their mind hasn't been clouded with all of the events that you go through up until adulthood. And so they're still very they're able to recognize things, just like you was able to recognize a lot of the inconsistencies within your household. There were children that directly targeted you because they saw that you had this inferiority complex, and so they used that as a way of making themselves feel good, okay? But this is something that caused you to shrink even more into your shell. And, you might have ended up growing into this very attractive person, and you saw that your attractiveness, it drew people to you, and you was able to get that spark and that excitement going based on people being, physically drawn to you, because aesthetically, you was very pleasing to the eye as you begin to get older. And so you saw it like, okay, well, I can make money in terms of, I can go to work, I can make money, and I can give, I can be a giver, and I can also, I'm passionate, I'm attractive, I know how to do certain things, in the bedroom, so I can attract to me relationships. But it was all on the surface, because we talking about physical appearance and financial stability. There's nothing that goes past the surface when it comes to that. But a large part of you became comfortable with that because then you got to avoid the real issue, in terms of being emotionally available or attracting to you people who were emotionally available. And so look at this. It says unheard and unnoticed. Didn't I just tell you being unheard and unnoticed as a child? This is starting from the root, being unheard and noticed by your mother or your father, those people that was closest to you. Because they didn't hear you, it caused this difficulty in communicating. And so, you also have lack of fulfillment. That's dealing with the sacral chakra. You found yourself being unfulfilled in life because a large part of you was not being authentic. You was not able to show the world the real you, because if you can't show people your vulnerability, if you can't be transparent and actually have an open heart and to be emotional with those people that are closest to you, then you are showing them, you're presenting to them a representative. You're not presenting to anyone the true nature, the true essence of who you are. And because you wore this mask for so long, you might have even begun to believe that this is just this is naturally who you are. I am an introvert. I am the type of person that I have no emotions. I don't do that mushy stuff. I was there. Okay. I was an introvert. I didn't believe in being emotional. I definitely knew that I possessed the ability to attract people. And so for me, on the surface, it was like, well, if I can keep the connection going because we have a strong sexual connection romantically. Or, I can go to work, I can make money, and so I can give. If you need something for this, if you need something for that, I can give. Or I can have intellectually stimulating conversation. We can do that. But in terms of offering myself emotionally, that was something that I often put on the back burner because I understood that energy of being unheard or unnoticed as a child, okay? And being placed into the shadows and often feeling isolated. And so it's a pattern that you end up having or that you end up going through that you don't realize it, okay? This card right here says, spend time with children or random acts of kindness. But what I'm more emphasizing is the one that says spend time with children. It wasn't enough people around you that wanted to spend quality time with you as a child, okay? So this is what blocked off your heart chakra and caused you to be very isolated when it came to your emotions. So let's see what else. Look at this, loneliness or shyness. That would be that introverted energy that caused you to feel isolated, very shy around people. You also have here, this is another one for the sacral chakra, okay? So you got multiple cards coming out for the sacral chakra. Block intimate relationships. Isn't that what I was just saying? Blocking off intimate relationships because, and I'm not talking about sexual intimacy, I'm talking about emotional intimacy because that's much deeper than any sexual intimacy. When you sexual intimacy, sexual energy is very powerful, but when you add in emotional intimacy to that, then it's 1,000 times more powerful in terms of the cohesiveness of a connection. But when you are void of your emotions in that relationship because your heart is blocked off, then you're literally just having surface sex. It's nothing to it, okay? There's no depth to it, okay? And so this is why that spark goes out very fast, okay? You're not able to maintain that passion in your relationships, and you find yourself having to move on to the next person because there's a large part, a great piece that belongs in a relationship that's just not there. And so you also have abandonment issues. So this is what has affected you, okay? Feeling abandoned. Some of you didn't have both parents in the household, or if you had both parents in the household, they was workaholics. And so you felt abandoned even in spite of their physical presence. Emotionally, they was not there. And so this is what causes you to attract narcissism to your life because there's a large part of you that subconsciously wants to be able to heal your inner child, but to also heal other people from whatever it is that has caused them to become cold and emotionally distant, okay? And so you attract these people, but it's all about lessons, getting the lessons so you can move forward to get your blessings. And so let me see. I'm going to pull from this deck to see what insecurities you might have, or how these insecurities has affected you in your relationships in terms of attracting narcissism to your life. Because when you know these things and when you see it for what it is, then it's like, okay, now I can address it. Now I can say, I see it for what it is. I kind of knew that this is what it was, but now I've got the clarity that I need. And so now I can work on strengthening myself in these areas, okay? So if you know about the chakras, then you know that the root chakra, you need to get more grounded, more stabilized there. Your sacral chakra is dealing with your creative nature, your creative energy. You want to pull back on the sexual or overindulgence and pleasure-seeking behaviors and give your sacral chakra a break. Okay, because it might be overactive because you've used that as a way of making connections. And not just for, romantic relationships, but it could be just friendships. Always trying to get the friendships that keep that spark going, always needing to do something exciting, which is nothing wrong with that. But if you have no emotional connection with that friend, then it's going to die off fast because, that fire is not but so long that you can keep that fire burning before eventually it just it flatlines, okay? And so even pulling back from overworking is going to help you to heal your root chakra, okay? Because overworking can indicate lack mentality, feeling as if you don't have enough. And lack mentality doesn't just go as far as the material things that you possess or that you don't possess. Lack mentality goes as far as whether or not you feel that love is infinitely abundant and available to you. Because you might cut yourself off feeling like, okay, well, I have to stay in this relationship with this person, even though they're a narcissist, even though they mistreat me, even though they're not emotionally available and they gaslight and they shut me down. But there's some part of you that feels like love is not abundantly available in the world. Even though it's over 7 billion people in the world, you feel like love is not abundantly available to you because of what you saw growing up. And those people that you really wanted to receive the love from, who you expected will give you that infinite, abundant love, they did not do it. They failed at that because they themselves were not healed. And so dealing with these issues and acknowledging these issues is really going to help you to start making better decisions moving forward. So let me just see. Your insecurities deals with new vision in reverse, okay? Not being able to see a new vision, not being able to create for yourself. Because when we talk about vision, new vision, this is all about your imagination. How far can you see? How far does your imagination go when it comes to the possibilities of your love life, the possibilities of your financial abundance, the possibilities of the friendships, the beautiful connections? You know, how far can your imagination stretch? That will be largely limited if your inner child is not healed, if your inner child is still wounded, because you know that children have the largest imagination out of everyone, okay? Because they haven't, gone through all of those life situations or been, confounded by conditioning just yet. Or at least they shouldn't be. Some of them have, but many of them haven't, where they can just be carefree and just be playful in their imagination. But if your inner child is still wounded and unhealed, then your imagination becomes very limited. And so as an adult, you're not able to visualize or to manifest or create in your own mind things that are outside of the box, because you feel that you've cut yourself off in terms of the possibilities, okay? And so you're insecure about whether or not you can attract real love. You're insecure about whether or not you can keep real love. So you want to be able to attract it. You're subconsciously, you want to be able to attract someone to you that's going to be emotionally available, someone that's going to listen to you, someone that's going to love you, someone that's going to, that you can cry in front of and not feel like they're going to use it against you later. You want that type of love in your life. But because your vision is obscured in terms of the possibilities of whether or not love is truly infinitely available to you, you feel that, okay, I can attract this person, but can I keep them? Am I able to keep this type of person that's so loving and that's so open and that's so emotionally available? Can I keep them? Well, that's all a part of you being able to visualize, yes, it is infinitely available, because you have to start to believe that you deserve it. And that you yourself possess infinite love. It's within you. It's within you first. But you have to first know this. You have to realize that you have to heal. You have to heal your heart chakra. You have to allow yourself to release the past and heal your inner child, so that you can know that when you do attract this type of person to you, you possess all that you need in order to keep this relationship going and to sustain it for a lifetime. Okay? So let's see. What other insecurities might you have here? You have nothingness coming out in the reverse. So that shows me this is all about creating that void space within your own mind that's going to allow you to clear your mental space so that you can receive all of those beautiful thoughts, feelings, emotions that are actually balancing for you. You might have so much clutter and so many toxic thoughts in your mind about yourself, about love, about relationships, that you don't even have room to create a vision. And so this is why it's so important to start acknowledging those thoughts, writing things down and burning them and releasing them, okay? I release all toxic thoughts concerning relationships. I release all strongholds from my childhood that made me feel isolated, abandoned, abused, misused, unheard. Burn it. Every time something comes to mind, write it down and burn it, because this is a great way to actually get rid of those things, especially if you don't have the right people in your life that you can actually communicate with. And even if you do have those people in your life, a large part of you has blocked off yourself from being able to express these things. Why? Because you was unheard, unnoticed, your throat chakra is blocked, and a large part of you is afraid of being vulnerable. So you're going to suppress it. Naturally, that's what you end up doing, is suppressing it. And when you suppress things, what happens? You end up exhausting yourself, because you end up carrying around this inauthentic version of yourself for so long, to the point where the whole machine just breaks down, okay? Because it's not real. It's not organic. It's not organic to who you truly are, who you was created to be. And so a large part of your insecurity is you feel like you don't have what it takes to keep things going. Why? Because you keep on presenting your representative to people. And you know that your representative is not for so long that you can put on that mask. It's not for so long that you can wear that mask, especially around somebody who you got to sleep with every night. And so your insecurities deals with you feeling as if things are going to crash and burn. Nothing is going to be long lasting. But in your authentic and organic nature, with an open heart and a healed heart, yes, it will be something that lasts for a lifetime. Okay? It will be something that lasts for a lifetime, as long as you are not afraid of being transparent and vulnerable. Let's just say you attracted to you someone today who they might not be so open in terms of their heart, but you yourself are healed. You've healed your heart, and you are okay with being vulnerable. You are okay with telling that person, look, I love you, right? You tell that person, I love you, or I desire you in my life. You're open, you're transparent, but that person is not healed, and they don't receive that. They block you off. They shut you down. Well, you was able to present yourself from your true authentic nature, so you take no losses. The only loss that you could take from a situation, is by withholding your true feelings and your true emotions. That's when you take losses, because then you end up having to suppress that. You end up having to suppress those emotions and carrying that with you. Okay. And because you end up having to carry it and suppress it, it makes you more bitter, because then it's that another trigger that made you feel like you was unheard or unnoticed. But practicing using your throat chakra and expressing your emotions in spite of someone else's response, their response or their lack thereof, and not allowing it to become a trigger that actually causes you to go back into your shell, but you still continue to be, carefree in your nature. That is what allows you to attract people to you that appreciate your authenticity, that appreciates you being in your nature and being the true version of who you have been created to be. One more in terms of your insecurities, your inner voice. You're insecure, and that this is another one, slowing down. So you're insecure about, we're going to talk about these two. You're insecure about your listening to your intuition. You are fearful that what you know to be true intuitively is not enough for you to actually move and take action based on what you know and what you feel. And so this is what causes you to go against your intuition. You tend to reject your intuition, and then you end up making decisions, surface level decisions. Okay? Well, logically, this makes more sense but your intuition, your inner voice told you no. This person is just like that person from my childhood, and I know because I've studied them long enough. I was able to shine the light on them long enough in my childhood to be able to see. I recognize these characteristics, but you go against your own intuitive nature because there's something on the surface that allows you to have a surface relationship, which is where you're most comfortable, because that's been your pattern. And so these are the things that you want to acknowledge. Slowing down deals with, okay, well, we're not going to have that spark, that passion. I'm fearful of things slowing down, because the more it slows down, the more vulnerable you have to be, right? Because, you can't always just have the fire going, because that's too much energy that you have to exert. Sometimes things will slow down, but slowing down doesn't mean that it has to go cold. It doesn't mean that, things have to go cold. You just have to be okay with the ebbs and flows of relationships. You have to be okay with, sometimes, things are passionate, things are, the spark is there. And then other times we just kind of cool. You know, things are just relaxed and mellow, but that doesn't mean that it triggers you to go back into your childhood and to feeling like, well, this person doesn't love me, or this person is not interested in me. It just means that this is the season for things to just be smooth sailing, and then we'll get back into that energy of that passion, and then it'll be smooth again. But that's how you keep things flowing. That's just like the heartbeat. Your heart has to beat, then it got to stop beating, then it got to beat, then it got to stop beating. And so this is the energy of how relationships are supposed to go. And so you have to release yourself from any feelings or emotions that makes you feel as if that slowing down within your relationship means that the passion is gone, because you're so used to keeping that spark going and staying on the surface of life in terms of your relationships, friendships, however that looks. Okay. And so that's what I got for y'all. I don't want to go too deep into this, but I definitely want to do a video on healing your inner child, because I feel like that's very important. If you desire a private reading from me, you can always email me. And I appreciate all the likes, the subscribes to my channel, and all of the beautiful comments that you all leave below. And of course, all of the donations that I have received, I appreciate those as well. So I love you all, and I'll talk to you all next time.